I just barely moved. These are very faint responses. Usually what I would do in a situation like this, and I'm not going to do it today, is I would do what I call turn shit up a notch. And what that is I get a little bit more aggressive, a little more intense. And what that does is it's like provoking to invoke spirits to communicate. They feel the energy of aggressiveness. Some people have said to me so many times, why are you so loud when you go to haunted locations? Well, believe it or not, that is more, that's being more intense, that's having more power at the location where you stick out, where they kind of are just drawn to you at that point. And doing so has been very successful for me. I'm always the loudest out of the bunch, and that's not calculated either. I mean, I'm kind of like that in real life as it is. My wife's filming, so she can. Is that? Would you say?
Oh yeah.
I'm loud as it is, but that's also something that's a big benefit in investigating. I have tried other approaches, and then I'm just not as successful as I am whenever I go into a place, and I just do me. That's the best thing that anybody should do out there, is just be yourself when you do these places.
I grew up in the 1970s and 1980s, and I remember a lot of people working out, lifting weights, going out for a jog, people wanting to get in shape, people wanting to lose weight. And during the 80s, there was a time where people started doing aerobic exercises, stepping, aerobics. And toward the end of the 1980s, and especially into the 90s, it came out where the the medical community was saying, well, all of this high impact exercise is not really good for you. It's affecting people's ankles, their knees, their hips, their back. It's causing a lot of joint pain, a lot of joint problems. And I know more than a few people that as that they got older, they weren't able to exercise at all because of the damage they did to their joints doing high impact aerobics. So in the 90s particularly, everything was about low impact, about being safe, protecting your joints, protecting your knees, protecting your back. But then once we got into the year 2000, into the new millennium, a few years, it seems that all of that is out the window. The exercise that people do today is unbelievable. If the high impact intensity was turned up to 4 or 5 back in the 70s and 80s, it's now turned up to 8 or 9, maybe 10. The things people do are just insane. And when you tell them, especially younger people, hey, that's really not so good for your joints and your back, they berate you, they yell at you. How dare you tell me, what's good for me? I know more than you because I'm the new enlightened generation. And so I wonder what will happen to some of these folks as they get older, into their 40s, 50s, and 60s, what kind of impact we're going to see from this kind of exercise. So, what am I talking about here? Why am I talking about exercise in a paranormal video? Well, I'm glad you asked that question because the little illustration does fit into what we're going to talk about here. And that is provoking spirits during a paranormal investigation. Now, I'm 57 years old, and the paranormal has been a lifelong interest for me. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books on paranormal investigations, how they're conducted, other people's investigations. I read a lot of books in the 90s by Ed and Lorraine Warren, or Warren rather, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I do have some questions about the authenticity of some of their investigations. But I learned a lot, and then as I progressed, I started dabbling in some of these things myself, and then took some courses and took a certified paranormal investigating class. Now, I have to say, as someone who's a little bit older, the ripe old age or the ripe young age of 57, it has always been paranormal investigating 101. There is one thing you never do, and that is provoke the spirits. You were taught one of the most important things not to ever do is to yell at the spirits, to start cursing and swearing or calling them names. This has always been a very big no-no. But I'm seeing a little bit of the younger generation, and maybe not even that much younger, people that are taking on this technique of provoking the spirits, swearing, yelling. You see a lot of this, and from what I'm seeing, I think a lot of this came from these paranormal shows that are on TV, which are not necessarily real investigations. I mean, it's a TV show. They're there to entertain. They're there to get views. They're there to make the network money. They want to bring you in every week into the new investigation, and it's spooky, it's strange. The investigators are getting scared, they're getting agitated, because of these. Some of the spirits are not so nice, allegedly. And so one of the things we see them doing after a while is these younger paranormal investigators going into a place, with their, EMF readers and their ghost boxes and their recorders for EVPs and all the different equipment. And they're like, "Show yourself, you son of a bitch," and they're like yelling out. And people mimic this because, hey, if Zach Watts' name on Ghost Hunters is doing it well, then it must be okay. If the person in this show is doing it, well, that must be how it's done. Then there's the individual whose clip I showed before this video saying, hey, when I'm starting to get kind of vague responses, I do what's called, ramping shit up a notch, and I start provoking the spirits, because they respond to that. Followed by the statement, I'm a loud person. I just be myself. And the best thing, I could tell you is when you go out there and you investigate these places, just be yourself. If you're loud, if you're obnoxious, just do you. And that seems to be the war cry in everything in the modern age. Just be you. Just do you. Well, in certain things, there's a certain code of conduct. There are rules that you follow for a reason, to protect yourself, to protect those around you. And it's not necessarily a good idea to go out there and throw caution to the wind and just do you. So the individual in this clip said that he's tried other methods. He wasn't successful with them, but then he found that provoking the spirits, ramping it up, they're drawn to him. He gets a lot of responses. As someone who has really studied paranormal investigations, took the course, going out there, doing my own thing, and also being a spiritualist, I could tell you this: if you're going out anywhere and you're ranting and raving and swearing and "show yourself, you son of a bitch," and I'm ramping shit up a notch, sorry for the language if that's offensive to anybody, but I'm using their words. You're going to get those spirits that are drawn to you but they are not good spirits. Any spiritualist knows, and any good paranormal investigator knows, when you are going to connect with the spirit realm, whether it be through meditation, mediumship, paranormal investigations, using equipment, using things like a pendulum, divining rods, however you're going to connect with spirit during a session or an investigation, you have to make sure that A, you protect yourself before any session at all. And that includes prayer, that includes asking for protection, that includes surrounding yourself with white light and the area that you're in, just flooding it with white light. And it involves, after you protect yourself, that you're stepping into this session, you're stepping into this investigation, letting the spirits know that you come in peace and love, you mean no disrespect. Even if you're getting, and you'll hear on many of my ITC sessions, you'll hear spirits that are cursing and swearing and name calling. And generally, I don't respond, or sometimes I'll say, well, why are you saying that for? You know, I'm coming in peace. I'm not here to offend anybody or, you know, make anybody mad. You know, I don't argue with the spirits, and no good paranormal investigator ever would. So you're going in with protection, and you're going in, basically, you're going into someone else's realm. It's like going into their house, so be polite. You don't want to walk into somebody else's house and say, give me a drink, you SOB, you know, where's dinner, you lazy slobs, you know, and start barking things out at people, you know, ramping shit up, because what are they going to do? A, they're either going to knock the crap out of you or throw you out, or knock the crap out of you and then throw you out. It's the same with the spirit world. Negative, impure spirits are going to be drawn to that sort of thing. That's why using this technique, he's being successful, because obviously, very obviously, looking at this from a paranormal investigator point of view and a spiritualist point of view, we would say his energy, his soul energy, his vibration isn't very high, so he's having a lot of trouble or not a lot of success connecting to the higher spirits. He's connecting to the lower spirits, the angry spirits, the evil spirits, if you will. Now, some of them, you know, people that do this, many times they're very fortunate that nothing really happens to them. But let me tell you what the danger in doing this is. The reality of the danger of doing this is that going in and provoking the spirits and drawing those kind of spirits toward you, you're opening yourself up, and you're opening the people up around you. You're exposing everybody to that energy, that provocative energy, that angry energy, those words, the swearing, the cockiness, you know, whatever it is you're putting forth. You're opening yourself up and those around you for spiritual attack and or spiritual attachment. Now, the likelihood, there are people, and I've known of people that have gone and ramped things up, and something followed them home from an investigation, and they were attacked. You know, there was poltergeist activity in their house. Things got, you know, kind of really scary and really hairy. And then there is the attachment. Now, an attachment can go several different ways. That angry spirit can add their angry energy to your energy and make you more angry. It'll start affecting your behavior, even affecting your mental health. This would be spirit obsession, where little by little you're acting more erratic, you're acting more unstable, and you're not even realizing. Others around you might, And they might say, well, he's just agitated, he's just depressed, he's just, having a rough time, he's under a lot of stress, not realizing what is happening. The person is being, under spiritual uh, obsession. Now, what can also happen is that this negative energy being attached to you can make you mentally ill or seem mentally ill, but it can also degenerate your physical health. And I've seen more than one person uh, dabbling in the spirit world the way they shouldn't end up getting sick and dying. Some very tragic, some through, just a disease that seemed to come out of nowhere. Believe me, those kinds of energies can make you physically ill. It's not something you want to play with. And you might not even know that it's happening. You might not even know that you have an attachment. And these things are affecting you spiritually, mentally, psychologically, and physically. This is why it is so, so dangerous to go out there provoking spirits and ramping shit up. Because believe me, there's better chance than not that you're going to get a spiritual attachment, and they're going to ramp your shit up in a way that you weren't expecting, or that is very unpleasant. Um, I would venture to say, um, I think there's a lot of people in society right now who have spiritual obsession by the way they act. Society has really kind of gone off the rails in a lot of ways, and that's because when we become overly selfish, when we become overly violent, overly arrogant, overly ramped up, and everybody's so ramped up and loud and just brazen these days, you open yourself up to those spirit energies. And they're like energy vampires. These spirits are out there wandering around, and they see somebody that's angry like they are, angry like they were, violent like they are, violent like they were. They're going to attach to you. It's kind of like, I finally found a home right here where I belong, attached to you. And they will add their energy to your energy and perhaps even attract more spirits. And, it gets worse from there. So it's just asking for trouble. Going to a haunted location, going to a location where there's a lot of spirit activity, and start swearing and provoking and being rude. Um, it's not going to end well to do that sort of thing. Paranormal investigating is not like trophy hunting. I went out and I made contact. Well, I got another recording. I got another EVP. I got another, something on camera, or, something recorded that I can share on social media. Yeah, I mean, all that's great. But paranormal investigation, much like spiritualism, spiritism, is there to prove the existence of the spirit world and the existence of an afterlife that is first and foremost a science. And we don't see a lot of people, taking it seriously as a science anymore. It is more like trophy hunting. They got another recording, they got another photograph, they got, something they can make the big to do on YouTube. I mean, there's some out there, that, you know, we're putting stuff on social media to archive our findings. And maybe other people will come along today, tomorrow, next month, next year, maybe when I'm long dead and gone, and find those videos and say, that was interesting. I want to try that experiment. Oh, hey, this guy was talking about this, not provoking the spirits, and I was out there screaming and yelling. Maybe I ought to dial it back a little bit. So that's what it's about for me. This isn't a big popular channel. If it ever turns into that, great. If it doesn't, that's great too. I'm doing this because I love it, and there's other people out there who do it because they love it. And they're usually the very small channels. They're not into a lot of sensationalism when it comes to what they do. And I really respect those kinds of people because it's real. And that's what this is all about. It's not about making a show. It's not about, going out there and being loud and ramping shit up, and I hate to keep, you know, I'm not one to come on and use any, language on my channel, and I'm using their terminology. Um, just because that, when I came across that the other day, that really, it really bothered me because this person, I think he's tied into the show Ghost Hunters in some way, if I'm not mistaken. And to have somebody, so many people watch the show, they look up to these people, they think they know what they're talking about, and this is the advice you're excuse me, and this is the advice that they're giving, and it's putting so many people in a very precarious and dangerous situation, going out there in the paranormal field when this is not what it's about. We are there first and foremost as a science to prove the existence of the spirit world, prove that there is an afterlife. And when we connect to those higher spirits, as taught in Spiritism, that is when we can also not only get evidence showing that there is an afterlife, showing that there is a spirit world, but we can also get some very valuable experiences and even advice and commentary from the spirits that is very enlightening. And that's the importance of being able to connect with those higher spirits, the good spirits, or spirits who are evolving and on their way out of, not being wandering around here on the earth realm anymore. So there's very valuable things we can learn from the spirits about our life now and about what happens next, and even how we should conduct ourselves so we're not one of those wandering spirits walking around after our death, swearing into somebody's, tape recorder, or, saying blasphemies, through an app on somebody's phone, cursing God and being afraid to go into the light. We don't want to be those kinds of spirits. We want to progress when we leave this place. We want to go into the light. We want to be better spirits. We want to be better souls. We want to draw closer to God on our journey, not be stagnant, not be, held here in a place, making further reparations for a life that was not well lived. And going out there and provoking the spirits, you know, uh, just to get a response, just to get something on camera. Yeah, you're putting yourself in danger, and you're also just talking to those lower class spirits. You're 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 adding nothing of value to the human experience. You're adding nothing of value to the science of paranormal investigations. You're adding nothing of value to the science and philosophy of spirit communication, spiritism, and spiritualism. You're just adding more aggression, more static noise in a world where there's already too much static noise and foul language and people being, ramped up and loud, because that's the thing to do these days. Like, the aerobic exercise I talked about in the beginning of this video, it seems like all common sense is out of the window when it comes to paranormal investigations. Nobody's adhering to um, the tried and true rules of conduct when it comes to connecting with spirit. And I think that's going to have a lot of dire consequences down the road. And not only when people see that kind of thing, they're not going to take it seriously. Anybody who's, you know, an intellectual, is educated, is reasonable, is logical, is looking, I wonder if there really is something out there. Are these paranormal people really, finding anything substantial? Everybody's on a journey. And then they come across your channel, your videos, and, or your show, and you're out there, swearing and, ramping it up, to get the spirits to play parlor tricks, and they'll gladly do that for you. They'll gladly, perform some parlor tricks. As long as it keeps you doing what you're doing and keeps you in ignorance, they'll perform all day, and they'll perform every time. And then in the end, chances are, the thanks you're going to get for that is a spiritual attachment that's going to harm you in some way or someone around you. You're putting your family, you're putting your team, you're putting yourself at risk. So this is never, ever, ever a good idea to provoke the spirits. And if you're a young person seeing this video, and you're out there just doing you, and you got your equipment, or you got some good apps on your phone, and you're out there in cemeteries and old abandoned buildings screaming and yelling and show yourself, mother effer, please stop. Listen to what I'm telling you. This is not a good thing. We don't go out in society and just do you. We can't walk up to people we dislike and just attack them out of nowhere, verbally or physically. If we don't like fast food and we think it's poison, we just can't walk into a McDonald's and start screaming and yelling and throwing trays. We just can't walk out into society and do you and ramp it up, because there's consequences. There's also consequences in the spirit realm. You just can't walk in there and do you. You're playing in their backyard. You're playing by their rules. You're playing in a realm that none of us fully understand. And so to go in there, thinking we're all it and we're going to ramp it up and we're going to be so cool, this is just playing with fire. And chances are it's not going to go well when all is said and done. So if you do this sort of thing, please do stop. If you know somebody that's a paranormal enthusiast and this is the way they conduct an investigation, show them this video. Help them out. Help them to stop doing incorrect, disrespectful investigations before someone gets hurt or worse. Like I said, there are rules that we must abide by. It's protecting ourselves. It's going in with respect. It's raising our personal energy and soul energy and vibration, as we say, as much as we can, to be able to connect with the good spirits. Have the good spirits protect us, the angels and the good spirits, and also try to connect with good spirits on the other side. You're going to get some of those bad ones. Sometimes you're going to have a conversation with bad ones, but it always needs to be respectful. You always come in love, peace, and friendship, and with much respect, meaning no harm. If you step outside of those parameters, you're already endangering yourself and others. So I hope this particular video was helpful to someone out there. I know I got a little long-winded, but this is a subject that just really laid kind of heavy on my heart after I saw that video, because it's so common these days. It's so common of people provoking the spirits and ramping it up to get a response, because it's all, fun and giggles and, oh, look, I said that and my EMF meter lit up. Oh, look, I insulted the spirits and something flew off the shelf across the room. Ha ha, isn't that great? Did you get that on tape? No, it's not fun and games. You're playing with forces that you don't fully understand, and you are playing with forces that could do you harm if you're not careful and if they want to be malevolent enough. So please stop this sort of thing. Again, I hope this was helpful. I appreciate you listening, and I will talk to you in the next video. Until then, stay in the light, stay in love, and God bless.